Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello. Today we've got Mike, also known as C-Roc. I guess C-Roc is your nickname you go by with all your friends and family.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
C-Roc. All right. We got C-Roc on the show. What's up, man? How are you? Welcome.
What's up, Chris? Yeah, man, I got a lot of friends. So it seems like everybody calls
friends,
me C-Roc.
Followers.
Yeah,
Did that just start happening or what?
Well, my last name's a little difficult to pronounce. So when I was in college, people started calling me, I played football in college, and they started calling me C-Roc. So it kind of stuck. And when I started my mission and my brand building and all that, I just figured I'd roll with it.
I like it.
There's a lot of mics out there. But I wanted to thank you for having me today. I always start every interview with gratitude because, you know, it's been such a big part of my life, eliminating things to complain about. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate your audience for showing up.
Absolutely. I appreciate you being here. And I like the gratitude piece because it's so easy for us to just be on to the next thing constantly. And when we take a second to pause and thank somebody, like that kind of caught me off guard a little bit, where I'm like, oh man, you're not just going to start talking about yourself. You're thanking me for the time on my show. So I really am going to take that playbook and start to implement that going forward. So thank you for that.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome.
So now that you've done the gratitude piece, who is C-Roc? If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, I know you're up to a lot. You've got a book back there for those watching on YouTube, but yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, man. Look, I'm just, I'm a fireball, man. I just, I have so much that I want to accomplish, and what it's wrapped around is my mission, which is all people are unstoppable to live the life of their dreams. And I have the formula for that, and I want to share that with people and encourage them and lift them up and just let them know they're not playing big enough games. You know, no matter where you are, you can always do better and accomplish more and impact more and help more. And, you know, I think that all stems from growing up in a broken home with a lot of broken people around me all the time. Drug addicts, alcoholics, mental issues, overdoses, suicide. I mean, a lot of stuff, man. And, you know, nobody should go through that. But when you do go through that, it does have the potential to create a fireball like me. So, you know, I just feel like I'm able to, you know, accomplish anything that I think about and have a thought about.
Yeah.
Not by myself, but just the fact of accomplishing something with whatever it takes, with whoever it takes, and however it takes, ethically, of course. So yeah, that's who I am, man. I do a lot of things, but it's all centered around all people being unstoppable.
I love that message. And even for whoever's listening to the podcast, I just want to also highlight your shirt's really cool too. You've got setbacks and it's got a strike through it saying, you know, like no setbacks, and then rocket fuel as well. And that's such a great message because I always talk about this with other friends and family and, you know, other entrepreneurs that are struggling with imposter syndrome, because we're all there, right? If all you see is broken homes and suicides and murders and drug overdoses and all those things, like that's kind of what you think is your environment. I've had this conversation many times before, and you see the private jets and the Lamborghinis, and it just seems so far away because you're not seeing that right now. But the message that you're sharing with everyone out here is that it is possible. You can go get it, and that, you know, it's out there for the taking. So thank you for sharing a little bit more about your background, and how would you say that inspired you? I mean, you wanted to get out of that, I imagine. How did you start meeting the right people to help guide you to success and this kind of self-fulfillment and development? Yeah.
So first of all, I came from a broken home, so I don't remember my parents ever together. Okay. There is seven brothers and sisters in the marriages and all that, the big melting pot thing. But, you know, look, I went to my mom's house and stayed there till I was 8, and she was moving on to her third marriage. And I just didn't want to move into another man's house when she decided to do that or learn another man's rules. So I decided to move in with my dad and try that out. He was on to a second marriage. And with that being the case, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. You know, there ended up being a lot of conflict between my parents, and they started acting like children, to be quite honest. And when that happens, it has an impact on the kids, you know, of course. So there's a lot of conflict, and I just, you know, dealt with a lot of emotional and psychological abuse, threats. I used to sleep with my baseball bat when I was 9 years old because of the things I was seeing and hearing. You know, for a while, I thought it was ordinary. I thought you're supposed to kind of go through that as a kid. You know, this is the way families were supposed to be. But I started going to other people's houses and witnessing the other families, right? And I would see other households with parents, got along, was happy. And I'm like, man, this is what I want. Why is my house, like, maybe I'm not ordinary. And so I started to think about this, and I started to, you know, share it with my mom on a trip to her house every other weekend, what was going on. And she said, well, you shouldn't be living in that kind of environment. You know, it broke her heart when I left her in the first place, but she let me go on my journey. But she just wasn't going to have that. So she said, look, I'm going to file court papers to get you out of there. But when I do this, you can't leave me hanging out to dry because it's a court thing and they're going to try to talk you out of it when you go back there and they find out about it. And, you know, in life, Mikey, she said, you need to stick to your guns. Like bottom line, when you believe in something, people are going to talk you out of it. They're going to try to because their agenda needs to be met, or you separate from the crowd and the crowd feels threatened. So they try to pull you back, whether you're going too fast, too slow, elevating, what have you. So I remember that. That was a great lesson my mom taught me. And, you know, for weeks I would go home from school and wait for those papers to be delivered. And they just never did come until one week. And I walked in the house and the tension in the room was thicker than thick, man. And I knew something was up. My dad had these papers in his hand. He told me to go to my room. And I went and sat and waited for him. And he, you know, I had these bricks back here because it's kind of a symbolism, but he had a masonry business, brick, block, pouring concrete. He was a very successful business guy. He had these big forearms and rough hands. And you could tell he was a hard worker. And I just always looked up to him for that. It was something that made me proud, you know? And if you know anything about Italian guys, they don't carry their wallets. They carry wads of money with a rubber band around it. And my dad used to have $100 wad, right? And he used to flash it and show me all this stuff. And I thought it was the coolest thing. So when he confirmed that I wanted to leave and what the paper said, I want to move back with my mom. She's filing for custody. He's said, you know, I don't understand why you're doing this. You know, your mom's poor. You got everything you need here. She doesn't have any money. She's on to her third marriage. Men are coming in and out of the house. All kinds of stuff you shouldn't tell a kid, right?
Right.
I'm sitting there about 10 years old, give or take. And he's like, you know, you should stay here. And I'm like, listen, I'm not discussing this. I made my mind up. And he said, okay. So he takes that wad of $100 bills out that he always carried on him, peeled one off, crumpled it up, and threw it at me. And said, then here, you're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother one day. And when he said that to me, the first thought that went through my head is, oh my gosh, what did I do? Like, what did I start? And, you know, all these things run through your head. And then very quickly, though, right after that, I realized, wait a minute. He's not going to dictate my future. I'm the one in control here. I'm going to make it. I'll show him, right? That's the stuff that went through my head. So, but for 30 some years, there was a spark lit right there. For 30 some years, I was subconsciously was driving off this thing to prove him wrong. I'm not going to let him win. I'm going to do better. I'm going to do, you know, great at everything I do, work, sports, school, relationships, marriage. I'm going to do it up. I'm going to show him. Right. And so anytime I feel like quitting or anytime I feel like I want to take things to the next level and things are going good, I always think about that moment. 2 years ago, to answer your question, finally, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I was going through a tough time with my business partners and business. And I had to do some self-evaluating, self-assessment. And I look back through my life and I was like, why am I elevating in my life despite everything that happens to me? What is this? Like, I got to figure this out. What am I doing that's working? And I realized that I was taking everything that would stop or slow down the normal human being, and I was storing it in my fuel tank instead of my trunk. Most people, you see, Chris, will store it in their trunk, and that's where it weighs you down. And I wasn't doing that. I was storing it in my tank and converting it into fuel to propel me. So no matter what happened to me, I became unstoppable. The only thing that stopped me was my thoughts of how big I wanted to go, or if I wasn't clear on what I wanted. That's the only thing that could stop me. Once I got a thought, I got it. I got everything I wanted in life. I'm not saying that to be cocky. I'm saying that because I was persistent and I used everything that came my way as fuel. Now, when I figured that out, that's the formula I've wrote about in the book, Rocket Fuel. I had to get this message out. I had to bottle it and share it with the world because it's so powerful once you figure this out. And so that's where I started getting the inspiration that, look, I need to get this out. I need to get known. I ran into Grant Cardone through a book that he wrote, 10X Rule. And I started hanging out with his company, his people, and then him. And I just, you know, I wanted to be around people that are elevating and seeing things the way I see it and impacting. And then that's where it started.
That's awesome to hear. And I wrote that down. Instead of storing it in the trunk, you're storing all those things in your fuel tank. A lot of people let that weigh them down. You know, if I heard that at 10, I mean, that's something like most 10-year-olds won't hear, I guess, or maybe you shouldn't hear at least. And you took that and you stored it and you started to prove, you know, what your dad said to you wrong over the years. It's almost like that chip on your shoulder that people talk about, right? Where like you're just grinding and you're pushing and you're not really sure why. You feel like you've got to prove somebody wrong. And I guess that's great that you were able to harness that energy into that rocket fuel instead of letting that weigh you down. Because so many people come up with excuses and, oh, I'm never going to be anything, or yeah, my dad said this or my mom said that, so it's got to be true. I love that you took that and you used it as energy. And that's the message I'd love for everyone to take away here is don't store that stuff in your trunk. Use it as fuel to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. And to add to that, if I may.
Yeah.
At some point in your life, your engine becomes more refined, more high performance, right?
You need a higher premium fuel.
Exactly. So there's some kind of line of demarcation. I don't know what it would be, what it's called, whatever, but there's some kind of line where you cross over it. And eventually you're not a Ford Focus. No offense to anybody that drives Ford Focus, but you're not a Ford Focus engine anymore. You're a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or even a rocket engine, right? Rocket fuel. Yeah. And you need more clean, high octane fuel. And that fuel comes from setting targets and creating a future for yourself that pulls you forward. Absolutely. That is the most clean, high powered fuel that you're going to find, but you cannot get to that until you get a more refined engine because you don't know how to set targets properly or goals properly or create a future and cause a future for yourself. So that's where the real power comes in. Yeah. When you can get to that line, I didn't write about that in the book because I came up with this part and with my coaches and everything after, but I started to feel this, more recently than ever, that the things that I'm creating and causing for myself and other people in the future is pulling me faster than all the other toxic energy and fuel that I was using before.
Definitely. And you start to leave that stuff behind. It's almost like going off the rocket analogy, right? I guess I don't know much about rocket ships, but you always see the videos of them going into space. And then like, at least the old rockets, the NASA rockets, they like drop something off because it's
stage two.
Stage two, right? They get rid of all that weight that's holding them down, and they can get to the. I saw the rocket, or what's it, Richard Branson flight the other day, and that looks like a little bit different, where they launched the rocket like a plane almost from two other planes. I don't know what was going on, but it was really cool. But anyway, you're leaving behind that baggage, and you're letting the other people, almost like a rubber band, like they're slingshotting you forward towards them, right? And so how did you get around these people? Like, how did you get into Grant Cardone's space? Did you just reach out after coming across 10X?
Yeah, look, there's a blueprint to this. Okay. I say blueprint because I have a new tech product coming out called Blueprinted. That's BLOO printed, Blueprinted. Just a little twist on it. But the blueprint to that is basically immersing yourself in somebody's content for free if you don't have the money, or paying for their programs, mentors, right?
Right.
And then taking it upon yourself, 100% responsibility on yourself to have success with it. Don't look to see if it works. Don't look to see if they put it together and they're great at what they do, right? Take their information. If they're at their level and they're giving you the information, the knowledge, and go be successful with it. Take that on your shoulders so that you cannot blame anybody but yourself. Once you have that success, then share it with them, share it with others, tag them all over the place, have them share it at their meetings in the morning about the success that their products are doing for you. And then start developing relationships. And so that's what I did. I would make sure that our success, we would go make sure we had success with my team. I had a team of mortgage people that we used this content on, Cardone University, what have you. And we would basically take the success that we made sure we had, and then we'd share it with them, and then they would share it in their company meetings. So then everybody became to know who we were and who I was, getting known, right? Mm-hmm. Getting known is important.
Yeah.
And then once I did that, I just showed up everywhere. I made sure I showed up. There was like Zoom calls, especially during COVID, there was Zoom calls all the time. I would make sure I showed up in the Zoom calls early. That way I popped on the screen first so that when anybody came in there, all the audience would know who I was because everybody would see the first screen. Yeah. And when Grant or the team came in there, I was always up at the top and I had this behind me.
Boom.
So
branding.
Then I would always connect with people and reach out to people and just being a maniac about being, obsessed with being known and meeting people. So eventually, from there, I just started hanging out with some of the people in the organization. Jared Glant became a friend of mine. He's the president of Cardone Enterprises. And then from there, I started thinking to myself, how can I impact this company besides just paying them some money for their programs or this and that? Like what could I do that would be a win-win situation for all of us? And I just kept thinking, I didn't know the how. Like, you don't need to know the how to commit to something that you want to accomplish, right?
Right.
And I started thinking to myself, what would it be? And I started opening my eyes and my attention to things. So then I got to tell you the story because it's good. I ran into a guy named Jared Yellen on Instagram. In my quest of being known and being obsessed with being known, I'm direct messaging people and saying, hello, I'd love to connect with you. Hey, let's set up a call. Let's set up a 15-minute call. And when I did that, I reached out to Jared Yellen one time. He doesn't even like have a good Instagram account. Like it wasn't even like, and the reason it wasn't good is he didn't put attention to it. He's very good at what he does. He just didn't put attention to it.
Right.
So we connected and we did an Instagram live one time, and we hit it off, man. We realized that our mission to serve people and build people was in alignment. And he told me what he did. And he was basically a tech incubator. So he would take non-tech entrepreneurs with tech ideas and bring them in and ideate on their idea, do some research to see if the competition was like, how much competition there was, if you could monetize and scale it. And if they did, he would co-found tech companies with these non-tech entrepreneurs that never would have thought they could be tech co-founders.
That's awesome.
So he had this idea that he wants to start 10,000 tech companies in the next 10 years. And I'm like, shoot, I want to be a part of that. Now, I don't know anything about tech, right? Except for the stuff that I use. But right. I know I can come up with ideas and I can talk to people, because my superpower is I'll talk to anybody and I can reach out and connect. Like I can connect the right people with the right people. It's like, that's something I just love doing. And so we got talking and I started a tech company, Blueprinted, as I mentioned with him. And I have a few other ideas that we're working on right now. But then I started linking this up to this idea that I committed to before. Like, how could I have an impact on 10X and Grant and the team? And I'm like, jeez, imagine if we had the rocket fuel of 10X behind this tech incubator. And I'm like, Jared, you got to meet to 10X. I'm going to introduce you to 10X. And so I set up a call with Jared Glant and my partner, Jared Yellen, and they hit it off, man. They aligned with family values, what they want to accomplish. And then he's like, you got to meet Grant, and Grant set up an appointment. You don't just do that. You don't just get a meeting with Grant. Yeah. That's not like, doesn't happen. But when you commit to something and you've shown up for a period of time and you show people you're committed and you show, like, the amount of money I've invested, by the way, with them is ridiculous. Like probably to a lot of people, not to me, but he wrote the forward for my book, by the way. I paid $75,000 for that. I didn't make $75,000 directly from book sales. I can tell you that, but it's intrinsic value. And that commitment that I showed and how crazy committed and obsessed I am allowed that meeting to happen. Once that meeting happened, like the speed that they worked with, the speed that they worked with to get this 10X incubator up and running is phenomenal. And if you guys go to 10xincubator.com, you can check it out. And then the story's on there as well. But yeah, so that's what I got into. And that's what the power of associating with the right people and being committed and showing up consistently does for you.
Thank you. There's so many nuggets to unpack there. I mean, you jumping on Zoom calls before anyone else, like the branding behind you where everyone can see you, you're recognizable. So now if they start to see you on 3-4 Zoom calls, oh, okay, I remember this guy. Yeah, C-Roc, cool. He's got that cool brick background and the poster behind him in the book. And you start to go into their world, but also the $75,000 like investment, like you said, you haven't really made that off of book sales or anything, but the relationships you unlock, you open the door, and now you're definitely on their radar. I've talked about this to other people as well, is that, I was trying to get someone's attention, trying to get their attention, DM them on Instagram. They're busy. You pay $3,000 to go to an event that they're offering and sit in the room with them. Now they're going to start replying back to you because you create a real relationship. You're showing you're willing to pull your wallet out, make an investment in yourself and in their products and support their business. And you even took it a step further there where you're like, how can I tie this back and let 10X benefit from this as well? So that's how you got the 10X incubator going on. And do you have any tips on how to be that great connector? Because I want to be better at that. I know a lot of people in the audience do as well. Do you just have this like all memorized? Like, oh, you got to talk to this person? Or do you have like a big CRM you use to manage it all, or what?
No. So really what it comes down to is being committed and being obsessed. And when I started the podcast, that's really where all this started to take off. I started a podcast, and you know this from doing your show. But once I started this, I started to realize, wait a minute, this is a great way to connect with people.
Really is.
And once you do that, it opens up a whole new world, man. And then I just started asking people this question here: what are you made of? And when you get people talking about what ingredients have gone into making them, it gets deep. Some people cry, some people get emotional, right? But you're always focused on the person that you're talking to and about them and asking them about their story. And people love talking about themselves, right? Yeah. And it just works. And when people do that, it's not manipulative. I really care about people. I've asked the question and I started the show because I cared about people. It wasn't even for all the stuff that I'm doing now. That's all byproduct. I started the show because I wanted to find out the ingredients that have gone into making people that are successful, right? And so once I saw that and I started networking and connecting with people and doing it in big numbers, like, I don't know how many episodes you've done, and I'm not trying to compare, but I'm just giving you, some context and contrast here. I basically would get as many people on my podcast as possible. I would go nuts and book guests. And I didn't even know how I was going to get all these episodes out. I just put them in the can, record them on Zoom, put them in the can, record them on Zoom, put them in the can. And then I would deal with that later. And I had so many episodes, I had a year's worth. If I just stopped today, I had a whole year still to go with releasing one episode a week. And I was
that was a lot of conversations.
and so you get good at it, right? You get good at interviewing, you get good at talking to people. I did 150 episodes to 200 episodes on other people's podcasts in a year, plus 150 of my own episodes in a year. And so you just get really good at it when you do it over and over again. And you can't do that unless you're committed and obsessed. So, that's what happened, man. And then from there, like, I just started seeing this magic start to happen, like where people, because you have a podcast and when you're obsessed, you're committed, right? That commitment is shown through all your work and content that you're putting out. All this energy you're flowing out. People start like resonating with that. And there's some kind of wavelength called vibes, right? Some kind of wavelength where people connect with it. And you're like, you talk to someone and they're super successful. And they're like, yeah, C-Roc, what's going on, man? Anything you're a part of, I want to be a part of with anything you're a part of. And I'm like, really? But it's because I've shown this commitment. I've pushed out so much energy that people are just on that same thing. And they're like, yeah, dude, I'm with you. You don't even have to talk them into it. It's an attraction thing. It's an attraction model. It happens. It's a phenomenon that I never would have believed until I experienced it. And the credibility that you get from being a podcast, person and also being committed to putting content out every day, like 3 posts a day. That's where it all comes from. But I think it all starts from being obsessed.
Yeah, I agree. Get committed and obsessed. I wrote that down. And that's a great answer to the question because, that's how you became a connector. You did 150 interviews or 100 plus interviews in a year. You're connecting with people constantly. You've already got a whole year's of your worth of content. Even if you were to stop today, that is a lot of content for you to do those conversations, record them, ask good questions, remember people's names, like stay in touch, connect on social media, and you're just building your Rolodex. And like you said, they're attraction marketing. Once you put all the value out into the world, people will start raising their hands and coming to you when they're ready. Yeah. If they hear something you say, they're like, hey, I've got money to invest in that opportunity, or I've got the right business partner that you may want to talk to.
Yeah, Chris, by the way, if somebody was listening to this episode right now and they haven't done what I've done so far, I understand that what goes through your head is that I can imagine doing that. A lot
of work.
It's a lot of work. I can imagine. Don't think about that. Like for me, if I would have thought about all the stuff that I've done, if I look at the last 2 years and I look at all that and I looked at that ahead of time, I would have never did it.
Yep.
So stop worrying about that. Stop thinking about that. Figure out, get really clear on what kind of life you want to live. What do you want to accomplish? Don't worry about the how. Don't worry about the work. Don't worry about any of that. Worry about what you want. From there, and get very clear on it. I can't stress this enough. Once that happens and you decide and commit to it, you just have to be consistent more than your emotions. Like, for example, if you don't feel like doing something, you still got to do it anyway. Right? Your consistency and your commitment is greater than your emotions. And no matter what happens, by the way, I have this little formula I use. If I don't feel like doing something, I do it anyway. If it's hard, I'll push through and do it anyway, because I know when it's easy and when I feel like it, I'm going to do it. And that's how I get 100% participation for myself. So I know people are listening to this. I know that the thoughts are good. I've been there. Okay. But just got to commit. Just commit. And when you're consistent for a long period of time, eventually you don't even recognize yourself.
That's amazing. One quote that comes to mind is the journey of 1,000 steps or 1,000 miles starts with the first step, something along those lines. It just starts with doing one episode, talking to one person, booking that one Zoom call. And then you kind of get into this little cadence where that's where I am now too. I think I've done 240 something episodes at this point. And now it's just like every week I've got podcasts in the books. It's already on the calendar. Yep. I already know it's going to happen whether I want to or not. And the beauty of that too is like sometimes I wake up and like you said, I'm not really feeling it. I don't feel like doing anything. And I'm like, damn, I got 3 podcasts today. Yep. Whether I like it or not, I got to still do it. And then you feel good. It's like going to the gym. Even if you don't feel like it afterwards, you're like, I'm glad that I went. I'm glad that I did that. And the seeds that you sow, I mean, you're going to reap that harvest maybe a year, 2 years, 10 years from now. It's going to be growing from all these little seeds that we're planting every single day.
Yeah, bro. And one more thing, let me tell you something. So, and this is not pertaining to you, so don't take this like I'm talking about you. But some days, like I'll be going on a podcast, and I know they don't have any listeners. I know they're maybe relatively new. I know all that, right? Sometimes I'll just not feel like right, and I think to myself, you know what? That person may be like so excited to have me on their show. Now, I'm not being. Again, don't take this the wrong way to anybody, right, okay? Because I'm not talking.
You're further
like,
ahead.
They may be excited.
Them.
They may be excited, and like they might be telling their friends and family, like I got C-Roc on the show today, right? And again, I'm not saying I'm all that. Just follow me here for a second. And they might do that. So then, what am I doing? Being a like selfish prick to
if you don't show up or something, right?
Or to not bring it, man, not bring the energy.
I love it.
No, not reach through the freaking video and make the person feel the energy that I have. So these are the things that go through my head. And the other thing is, speaking of that, like I pretend that I'm the shit before I'm the shit.
You got to feel it. You got to,
I don't even know,
get that energy up.
Right. Because my mind doesn't know the difference. Like, and it's not a cocky thing. Like people need to stop this shit with lying to themselves and all this. Like I did a video, I just put it out today, I think, about stop lying to yourself. Like you're a good looking dude. Be a good looking dude. If somebody gives you a compliment, say thank you and know that you're good looking. Ladies, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. If somebody tells you that a compliment, take it.
Take it.
Say,
for
thank
sure.
you. Right. And then what I do, like I said, I pretended that I made it before I made it. And I acted and I live it. And if people have a problem with that, tough shit, that's not my problem. That's their problem. They got to deal with it. I treat people with respect. I lift people up. I'm not saying to be like, cocky and all that, but just know that you're the shit before you're the shit so that you can do what you got to do to accomplish it.
Yeah. You have to have that confidence. If you're slouching and you're not confident, I've heard Ed Milet say this before too. I think I went to the RT Syndicate Live a couple of years ago and someone came up to the mic kind of like hunched over and whispering into the mic. And he's like, hey, before you even start, ask that question again, but like stand up straight and like have some confidence. Yeah. And it was kind of like, whoa, he's just coaching this dude in front of 1,000 people or whoever was there. But that stuck with me because if you come across as confident, even if you're nervous as hell inside, other people are that energy, like you said, it's going to get projected through that microphone to the audience, and someone's going to hear that message that otherwise they may not hear. If you sound unsure and you're not really that confident in what you're saying, you're not even sure in yourself, why should they believe you? So you have to believe in yourself before anyone else does. I really love that because a lot of people say, don't fake it till you make it. Like, don't try to be flashy and act like you're all that when you're not there yet. You have to have those feelings to do the things and to kind of make yourself do the things that you need to do in order to get those actual results.
Right. Because that helps me go to a show. Again, I'm not talking about yours, Chris.
And bring it.
I'm not, but you got to bring it. And I want to make sure that person, if it's their first show, that they can say one day, even if I'm not there yet, dude, I had C-Roc on my show.
That's badass.
I had him on one of my first shows. That means something to me because then I look at myself in those shoes. When I first started, when somebody said yes to coming on my show that I admired, I was so damn excited, man. I don't know about you, but I was so damn excited that like, holy shit, Grant Cardone's going to come on my podcast, I mean, I had several guests. I don't want to slight anyone, but yeah, man. I mean, it's the way I look at it, and it's worked.
It's just a numbers game too, like you said. I mean, you do more interviews, you get better, you become a better speaker, you land bigger guests, and it just becomes more comfortable. I remember, I think my first big guest was Dan Locke, and I didn't have that many episodes, and he had like millions of followers across all the platforms, and I was like getting a little sweaty and nervous, and I had a list of questions like, oh, what am I going to ask him? And I'm not successful yet. What the hell am I going to say? But now it's gotten easier and easier. Where now, like I talked to Billie Jean is Marketing or Dan Fleischman and even C-Roc, like I'm like, hey, cool. Let's ask some questions. Let's have a conversation. I know you're going to bring it. And at this point, I feel more confident that I'm not going to ask completely stupid questions and like stutter all over the place. But it came with practice.
I'm with you. I sometimes I'm doing my interviews and I'm like so intently listening, and then they're done talking, and I'm like,
oh, what do I ask next?
Shit, man, I was too busy to think about what to talk about next. But that's just being present, man. That's being, taking it all in. So
100%.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I know we're a couple minutes over, and I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything that we missed or any last nuggets you'd like to add in terms of motivating someone out there who needs to hear that message today?
Yeah, I think that we all need to play a bigger game. So I want to challenge everybody that's listening. I don't care what stage you're at. If you're just starting something new, you're young, you're old, if you're high producing, whatever you're doing, every single person needs to question themselves on if they're playing a big enough game. because we're all capable of doing more than we're doing right now. No doubt about it. I know that for a fact, 100%. And the other thing is, I talked about a lot about not worrying about the how, just commit. And with this Blueprinted app that we started, I want everybody to go to blueprinted.com. That's blue with 2 O's, blue, BLOO, printed.com. If you go there and put your email in there, we're going to be giving you some updates on this app that's coming out that is going to be an industry disruptor for consulting, training, and creators and influencers. This thing is going to be easily a multi-billion-dollar company. It's just getting ready to be launched, and you can be a part of it when it comes first comes out. And when an app first comes out or social media platform comes out, the earlier people benefit the most.
For sure. You get all the, you can get all your usernames and everything too, like Clubhouse, for example. Exactly. I finally didn't have to add any numbers to the end of my username. I jumped on there right away.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Exactly. So I'll put that link in the show notes. And then where can people go to reach out to you, to learn more about you and to follow you on social media?
Yeah. So MikeCroc.com. That's Mike, CROC.com, or Instagram, Clubhouse, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. Trust me. You can find me very easily. I made sure of it. That was part of the mission. And anybody that reaches out to me, look, man, I want to talk to everybody. I want to engage with everybody. I don't care how far I take this thing. As long as time allows, I want to talk to every one of you.
I love it. I love it. And that you're making yourself so available to everybody, because as you rise up, most people become less and less accessible. So you're keeping that invitation open. I really appreciate that. And I know our listeners do as well. So C-Roc, thanks so much for your time, man. I really enjoyed connecting with you and bringing the energy, whether someone's got 0 followers or millions, you're going to bring it every single day. So thank you once again.
That's right, Chris. Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey everyone, Chris Bello here. Just wanted to thank you real quick for listening to the show, whether you're listening on podcast or YouTube or wherever it is that you may be listening. I wanted to make that quick offer about real estate help. I am in the real estate business. That is my main business and how I make all my income and my living, by helping others buy, sell, rent, or invest in real estate across the nation. If you have any questions at all, go to chrisbello.com/real estate. Again, that is chrisbello.com/real estate. I'd love to see if I can help you out in my markets. And maybe if you're in a market outside of the ones that I'm focusing on right now, I'd love to connect you with a real estate professional who can help fulfill whatever needs or services that you are requiring. So again, go to chrisbello.com/real estate. A great thing is when I connect you with a vetted professional, if I'm not able to help you myself, is whenever a transaction closes, I'm actually able to get a referral commission. So that can be a great way of thanking me for my content. It helps to support the show, and it helps me to continue to spend time bringing on amazing guests, doing these great interviews, spending a lot of time on creating content, and making sure that I can bring you the very best information that you need to grow professionally, emotionally, intelligently, and in every single area. We're all working on getting better at everything. And so my focus and expertise is in real estate. I'd love to be the one to help you again. If you're not interested in that, no worries at all. Please continue to listen to the show. Make sure you leave a review. It helps so much in getting new followers and sharing the message. And thank you once again for being a listener. I'll catch you on the next episode.